Jensen Ackles, actor, director, producer, and monster hunter?
Carry on my wayward son.
Anyway, the man is one of the best actors in TV, especially from the past 20-odd years, starring in soap operas and gothic TV shows to being the voice of Batman and more recently becoming a very fucked up take on Captain America.
Very special guest, Soldier Boy.
Fab Five Freddy told me everybody's fly. DJ spinning, I said my.
But in today's video, I'm going to be focusing solely on Jensen's time in the Boys universe as the character of Soldier Boy, and more specifically why he was perfectly cast for that role. Now, before we can get to Jensen's time on The Boys, we first need to look back at his very impressive resume that he's held throughout his career. Whilst he starred in a few TV shows during the 90s and a few bit parts, it wasn't until 1997 where he got his big break playing Eric Brady in the TV show Days of Our Lives, which means he never got to meet Dr. Drake Ramore, sadly.
I'm afraid the situation is much more dire than we'd expected.
Now, Jensen starred on the soap until 2000 when his character left the show. Whilst the character of Eric would return much later on, he wouldn't be portrayed by Jensen, who had other commitments at this time. But this isn't Jensen's only notable role during this period, as he also starred in Smallville, playing the character Jason Teague, where he worked with Tom Welling, who was playing Clark Kent on the show. And we'll come back to this bit a little later on. There's also a few other small roles during this period, including Dark Angel and Dawson's Creek as well, and it's also worth noting that Jensen contributed to the animated Batman film Under the Red Hood, where he voiced the character of Jason Todd. Another character named Jason. What are the odds? And now we come to the role that put Jensen on the map, Supernatural. Created by Eric Kripke in 2005, the show follows two brothers, Sam and Dean Winchester, who go around the States saving people and hunting things.
I think he wants us to pick up where he left off. You know, saving people, hunting things. The family business.
And this role in my mind is at least what has contributed to Jensen's success as an actor in recent years. Very much in the same vein as Suits, putting Patrick Adams and Gabriel Marked on the map regarding their own careers, even if either of them haven't really acted too much outside of the show. Anyway, Supernatural ran for around 15 years and wrapped up in 2020 during the pandemic, with the final episode, Carry On. And it's also worth noting that the original ending for the show was going to be much different. Jensen, I believe, has spoken about this at a few conventions here and there, but the original ending included almost every actor that the production could get to come back out to where they were filming, and this would have included almost every character that had died in the show up to this point. And on top of that, Kansas, who sang Carry On Wayward Son, which was used predominantly throughout the show, were planned to be the in-house band at the bar. But all of these plans were thrown out the window when the pandemic happened because shit had quite literally hit the fan by then. Now, as I'm sure you can imagine that due to Jensen's impressive resume, why have none of the major superhero folks over at Marvel not tried to get him in a project? Well, that's not for lack of trying, of course, because Marvel have made attempts to cast Jensen in projects here and there. The earliest example was Jensen being in consideration to play Hawkeye in the 2012 Avengers film, but by this point Supernatural, I believe, was either filming Season 8 or was just wrapping up Season 7. And Ackles would of course been unavailable for this. The role of course later went to Jeremy Renner. Now, another notable attempt at casting Jensen was surprisingly with Fox before they were bought out by Disney in 2019. Before Ryan Reynolds was cast, Jensen was apparently in consideration for the role of Deadpool, and as you can expect, the schedules didn't line up and Ackles had decided to commit to Supernatural. But I think we got the better deal with how things played out, both with Deadpool and Jensen's career especially. And last but not least, we now come to what I assume most of you clicked on this video for. Soldier Boy. In 2020, during the pandemic, but before Supernatural wrapped up, Jensen joined the cast of Eric Kripke's new show, The Boys. As the character of Soldier Boy, who is a commentary on the character of Captain America. Now, for those of you who read both the comics and have watched the show up to this point, will be aware that a lot of deviations were made from the source material, and especially when it came down to Soldier Boy. In the comics, the title of this character was handed down. The first Soldier Boy was active in World War II as a member of the Avenging Squad, a commentary on the Avengers of course, and he was very quickly killed. The second Soldier Boy was a member of Crime Fighters Incorporated, but not much is known about the second man to carry the shield, and that brings us to the third iteration of the character we see in the modern day of the Boys comics. Now, unlike the bravery and prowess that Steve Rogers is known for, this Soldier Boy is literally the polar opposite. Now, if you watched my YchLjOhJEsBTvsKg video from quite a while ago, you'll know that Soldier Boy in the comics was manipulated by Homelander into sleeping with him as a quote-unquote test to join the Seven. But it's not just that, because this variant in the comics is weak and pathetic. Like I said, polar opposite. However, it's not until 2020, when the Boys TV show was already 2 seasons in, that Kripke decides to take things up a notch. See, by this point, Eric had already brought in 1 or 2 actors from Supernatural to appear in the show. Among them was Jim Beaver, who played the character of Bobby Singer in Supernatural, but plays politician and later President Robert Singer in The Boys. And since then we have seen more actors from that show appear, including the likes of Jeffrey Dean Morgan as Joe Kessler in Season 4. In the episode Barbary Coast, we get to see a flashback to the 80s with a younger Grace Mallory, where she met Payback, and Soldier Boy, who turned out to be a complete arsehole. One thing I enjoyed about this flashback was actually seeing Soldier Boy fighting enemies. The short piece of action we see him in for this episode was actually pretty good, and definitely makes me hope we'll be seeing more stuff like this in Season 5 and the upcoming prequel show with him and Stormfront. Anyway, another reason I think Jensen was perfectly cast as Soldier Boy was because he was trusted by Kripke. Now, Eric, as I've mentioned, created Supernatural and obviously worked closely with Jensen and Jared on his tenure there, so it is very obvious to me at least that Jensen gave his all with the character because he was so trusted by Kripke, who went to bat for him before he had even been cast and was still in the auditioning phase. And finally, Jensen himself is just a fantastic actor. Now, I'm not too familiar with stuff like Dark Angel, Dawson's Creek and Days of Our Lives because I don't know if any of them aired in England, but I am very familiar with Supernatural because I watched The Boys first and then got into that after watching Season 3, and I fell in love with the story. 2 brothers just driving around in America in a Chevy Impala hunting monsters. Who wouldn't want to watch that? Jensen honestly has a lot of heart and is one of the sincerest human beings on the planet, and that to me is what made him perfect for Soldier Boy. And that, folks, concludes this very long video essay-esque type thing on why I think Jensen was perfect for that role. If you want to see more videos in this style, then let me know in the comments because I'd love to make more stuff like this. And be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any further videos. But in the meantime, thank you all for watching, and I shall see you all soon.